Hi, I'm Emily Moat, TSU 4-H agent here in Warren County. And in our second installment of Can My Animals Eat That?, I'm going to discuss some plants that are poisonous to cattle. Now, some of these plants may not currently be in your animal's environment, but it's always a good idea to have an idea of what they look like should they appear in the future. Today, we will learn to identify each plant based off of their distinguishing traits, learn parts of each plant that are poisonous and the time of year they pose a threat, and learn symptoms of poisoning from each plant. I'm not going to discuss the specifics of how to treat poisoning from these plants. If you do suspect your cattle have ingested a poisonous plant or are showing signs of poisoning, contact your veterinarian immediately. Toxicity may vary due to an animal's age, size, condition, quantity of the plant they consumed, part of the plant they consumed, and the time of year that they consumed the plant. The very first plant that we are going to look at is the red root pigweed. This is a large annual herb that is easily identifiable by its red, fibrous taproot. It is commonly found in cultivated fields and barnyards. Red root pigweed is not only toxic to cattle, but to goats and sheep as well. What makes this plant poisonous is its ability to accumulate nitrates after treatment with herbicides and/or heavy nitrogen fertilization. Red root pigweed also becomes more palatable after treatment with herbicides. Symptoms suddenly appear 5 to 10 days after consumption. Animals exhibit weakness, trembling, and incoordination. In 48 hours, symptoms can progress from knuckling of the posterior or back end of the animal to paralysis, sternal recumbency, and death. Another syndrome occurs in cattle, which incoordination is followed closely by coma, then death. A necropsy exam will reveal degeneration of the brain and edema or swelling in the kidney region. Our next poisonous plant is pokeweed. This is a perennial herb that is easily recognizable by its purplish colored stem and black pea-sized fruit. If those fruit are crushed, they will produce a reddish colored ink, if you will, that can stain the skin. Pokeweed is often found along fence rows, in pastures, and around old home sites. Pokeweed's poisonous principles, oxalic acid and a saponin called photolaxatoxin, are what makes it poisonous. All parts of the plant contain small amounts of those two toxic principles, with the root being the most toxic portion. Poisoning occurs during the spring, summer, and fall of the year. The most common symptom of poisoning from pokeweed is gastroenteritis with cramping, diarrhea, and convulsions. Postmortem lesions include severe ulcerative gastritis, mucosal hemorrhaging, and a dark liver. In most cases, animals recover within 24 to 48 hours after symptoms are shown. The next plant we're going to take a look at is the Japanese yew. It is an ornamental evergreen tree, easily identified by its glossy, green, dark leaves and produces a showy red or yellow fruit. It is commonly found in landscaping around homes, but can easily make its way into your animal's environment by way of landscaping clippings or wreaths made around Christmas from its branches that get tossed into the animal's pen or field. The Japanese yew is thought to be one of the most toxic species of yew. Its toxic principle is a group of various alkaloids. All parts of the plants are toxic, and it doesn't matter if the plant is eaten green or dried. It is poisonous year-round, but poses the biggest threat during the winter due to high concentration of alkaloids in the leaves. It can take as little as 8 to 16 ounces of yew leaves being ingested to poison mature cattle. Now, there are two different syndromes associated with poisoning from Japanese yew. The first is acute poisoning, and the only symptom is death. Death usually follows 1 to 3 hours after ingestion of the plant, and animals are oftentimes found dead next to the plant. The second is subacute poisoning. Symptoms include ataxia, or the loss of control of body movements, diarrhea, hypotension, or abnormally low blood pressure, hypothermia, coma, seizures, weakness, respiratory failure, bradycardia, or an abnormally slow heart rate, and sudden death. Cattle usually die within 24 to 48 hours after ingestion. Survival without treatment is possible, but doesn't occur often. The Japanese yew is probably one of the most poisonous plants that we will discuss today. The next plant we're going to take a look at is Jimson weed. This coarse, foul-smelling plant is easily identifiable by its purple tinged stem and unique fruit. And you can see there I have a picture of its fruit, both in its early stages as well as in its ripe stage there in the center of the slide. The fruit is a dry, spiny capsule that turns brown when ripe and is full of black, shiny seeds. Jimson weed isn't just toxic to cattle, but to goats and sheep as well. The toxic principles of Jimson weed are the alkaloids atropine, hyoscyamin, and scopolamine. All parts of the plant are considered poisonous, whether green or dry. However, the seeds are particularly poisonous. Jimson weed isn't usually eaten except when other more desirable forage is unavailable. So Jimson weed is not a plant that your cattle are naturally going to be drawn to or want to consume, but they will eat it if the quality or quantity of forages in their pasture or field is less than desirable. Cows can be poisoned by consuming 1/2 to 1 pound of the green plant. Early symptoms include a weak and rapid pulse and heartbeat, wildly dilated eyes, and dryness of the mouth and other mucous membranes. Animals may appear blind, and later symptoms include breathing, lower temperature, convulsions, or coma if left untreated. Next, we're going to take a look at perilla mint. This is another weed that is extremely toxic and very dangerous to cattle. Perilla mint is a tall annual herb with a square-shaped stem and leaves that are green or purple, or might have a greenish purplish tint to them. Perilla mint gives off a pungent smell when it is crushed. Perilla mint can be found in pastures and fields, along roadsides, and around old home sites. This plant contains perilla ketone, which produces pulmonary edema, or the accumulation of fluid in the lungs, and pleural effusion, or accumulation of fluid in the chest cavity. Toxic cases are usually seen in the late summer or early fall after grazing of the plant. Affected animal will show signs of respiratory distress. They have difficulty breathing, especially when exhaling, may grunt when exhaling, and may have nasal discharge and an elevated temperature. And that is, again, all due to that perilla ketone toxin that perilla mint produces. Post-mortem examination will reveal pulmonary emphysema and edema, and seeds of the plant are often found in the rumen. So perilla mint is a weed that you definitely want to make sure is out of your cattle's environment. Next, we have the black locust. This plant isn't just toxic to cattle, but it is also toxic to sheep and goats. The black locust tree is easily identifiable by its furrowed, thick bark, thorns that can be found at the base of each compound leaf, like I have pictured there on the left of the screen. You can see at the very base where that leaf stem starts to connect to the limb, these small, sharp thorns. Black locust may also produce thorns sporadically along its trunk, and there have been some development of thornless black locust trees as well. And they're also identifiable by their extremely large seed pods, like I have pictured at the bottom of the screen. Black locust can be found in open woods, roadsides, fence rows, and old fields. Its toxic principles are the phytotoxin robanin and the glycoside robitin. The roots, bark, sprouts, seed pods, and trimming of the black locust are poisonous. Symptoms include weakness, posterior paralysis, depression, loss of appetite, irregular pulse, difficulty breathing, and diarrhea. Now, black locust isn't just found out in the wild, but this is also a tree that might be found around your house as part of the landscaping. And if you do decide or have some of these in your yard and you do decide to do some spring trimming, please don't throw the leaves and things that you have trimmed from the black locust into your animals' fields. Those are all the poisonous plants we will be looking at today. This is not a complete list, but just a few of the poisonous plants that affect cattle in our area. If you have any 4-H related questions, you may give me a call at 931-473-8484 or shoot me an email at emote@utk.edu.